Before we begin, we want to acknowledge that some stories and discussions in this episode of Radiant Resilience may touch on sensitive and potentially triggering topics. These may include themes of incest, childhood sexual abuse, rape, addiction, suicidal ideation, emotional abuse, mentions of disordered eating and toxic work culture, and discussions of failed therapy experiences. Our goal is to share real life experiences in a respectful and empathetic manner, offering insights into the complexities of the human spirit and the journey towards resilience. However, we understand that some content might be difficult for listeners. We encourage you to prioritize your well being and discretion when deciding to listen. Please remember this podcast is not a substitute for professional advice or support. If you find yourself needing assistance, we urge you to seek help from qualified professionals or trusted support systems. Your mental and emotional health is important to us. Thank you for your courage and for joining us in a space of understanding and compassion. Welcome back, everyone, to Radiant Resilience. I am very excited for this conversation today. I have with me Denise G. Lee. She is a healing and leadership coach who helps high-achieving individuals navigate emotional struggles with authenticity and courage. As a survivor of incest and rape and a recovering sexaholic and alcoholic, Denise's journey is rooted in resilience. She empowers others to heal, grow, and lead by embracing vulnerability, accountability, and self-awareness. Through her work, Denise offers practical, down-to-earth advice grounded in psychology, faith, and lived experience, inspiring others to find strength beyond the surface. How are you doing today, Denise? Thanks for being here.
Oh, Tawny, it's a pleasure. We were talking like 15 minutes before we even hit this record button. And I was like, oh, snap. Maybe I should say this for the benefit of your audience.
Yes, I'm so excited for where this conversation is going to go because, yeah, and I just think you have a lot of amazing insight. So let's start first with your personal journey. I'm going to let you start wherever you feel like starting in that journey. Obviously, incest and rape sounds like a pretty intense thing. So, however, you want to go into all of your journey into where you are now, please share.
Yeah, so I'm going to start on a very unorthodox kind of way. I'm just going to start on saying I'm a recovering asshole.
Okay.
You remember the show Seinfeld?
Yeah.
And it was like Jerry Seinfeld and all his friends. And the reason why it was so funny and why it was so long lasting was that every single episode, Jerry or Lane or Kramer, they always did something epically stupid. And the whole episode was like watching in detail how they were trying to resolve and then make things worse and then be hated. And the only people who really wanted to hang out with them were their own kind. And that's what my history and my trauma and did to me. I epically screwed things up because I lacked the tools to be able to relate with anybody in a healthy and nurturing way.
Yeah.
That's not really sexy to talk about that from the front end because you just started saying that I'm a trauma, I'm an incest survivor. Those things are true.
Yeah.
But there's also some other things that happened post-trauma, which made my life worse.
Ooh, and that nobody wants to talk about because everybody talks about coming out of the trauma.
Yeah, that's the thing that people don't want to talk about. And I'm not sitting here for everybody who's listening and watching or streaming, wherever you're consuming this, and say, Denise is the one who listens to me. Let me just watch somebody else. Like I get, right? Because there's a zillion of places, and obviously beyond your podcast, your YouTube, Tawny, that talks about that and caters to that. But I think there comes a point where you have to get real and say, maybe it was me. Maybe I didn't do stuff. And so let me explain what I did terribly wrong to make you listen, to understand that it's not that you were wrong, it was that you didn't lack the tools. So let's rewind and go about, I'm 43. Gosh, I'm 43. And I
40s are a good era. They're going to be your best era.
I think you're still in your 30s. Come to me in 10 more years and say that.
Yeah, but anyway, I'm going to get there. So I want to know it's going to be a good era.
It'll be less of giving a damn. So that, but all right, let's rewind about, let's say 30 years. 30 years. And so picture this. I'm in a psychiatric hospital because I'm threatening to kill myself. I was in a foster care situation, but I threatened to kill myself, and now I'm in a psychiatric hospital. And I tell everyone in the psychiatric hospital, please call me Clarissa. At this time, it was the 90s, and the pitch show at the time was Clarissa Explains It All. My middle name, at the time, was Claire, so I thought Clarissa, that's a bridge, I'm there. So the delusion was starting already.
Yeah.
I was already uncomfortable with the fact that I was clearly mentally unstable. I'm a child. I don't feel any sense of security. And the best way for me to deal with that was to create a persona of me that wasn't even realistic. That's normal as a trauma survivor.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you don't want to think about the trauma. So you're going to try to dissociate any way you can.
Most people don't have the tools to deal with someone, even in the mental health arena, which is really shocking to me, but that's a whole different conversation. Most people don't really understand complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay, so let me explain really briefly, get all nerdy with you guys for just a second. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, versus complex post-traumatic stress disorders, two different beasts. So let's say you and I, Tawny, we're going on a shopping spree. We're going to Vegas, right? We're gonna go see the Beeb. He decides to go to the Cosmopolitan, and we're going to go see the Beebs, right?
Yeah.
And then we've got our girl cowboy hats all studded, and we're just feeling high and cool. And as we're walking down the strip, just feeling awesome, right? We witness somebody get stabbed openly in public.
Yeah.
So we're like, wait a minute. I was in the Beebs energy, and now I'm like witnessing something horrific. Yeah. There's something that's terrible. Something happens to both of us in that moment, right?
Yeah.
That between you and I, right? If you have no experience with a shocking, violent thing, right? It shakes you to the core. Be like, wait a minute. I've only seen like fake blood and guts on TV.
Yeah.
I've never seen that in person. Versus me, I'm like, take a number, I've seen this mess before. And so both of us are experiencing something. For you, right? It's acute at that moment. It's traumatic. At that moment, you have no experience, no frame of reference, and your body's shaken to the core, right?
Yeah.
But for someone like me, or someone who has been experiencing very shocking, continually stressful events for a large amount of their life, that's just another file in the cabinet of crazy things.
Yeah.
The dissociation is deeper. A tendency to minimize your pain and the impact of everyone is greater. You're unable to be able to reconcile what is real from fake because you're so used to being numb, amongst other things. So people who have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, it's like trauma and trauma and trauma.
Okay.
So the reason why I'm mentioning this is that for a lot of people who finally choose to heal, they're not healing from PTSD. Most of the time, if you or in a hospital or some type of, or like a school shooting or something like that, you immediately get rushed to therapy, right?
Yeah.
And that the issues are cleaned up, dealt with. But most of us who go to therapy, we got trauma on trauma on trauma on trauma. And to sit here and to say, go wash your face, or whatever thing, or just let them be, or whatever cliche, doesn't work.
Yeah.
Because there's so many layers that have to be cleansed.
Yeah. Yeah. It goes real deep.
And I hate to say this because I didn't want to admit this myself, but for a lot of people who have dealt with complex post-traumatic stress disorders, has a couple of things going on. Delusions of grandeur, okay? Which is weird because we think that's a sign to people who are the textbook narcissistic or the gaslighter, like those bad people, right?
Yeah.
Not me. But when you have gone through repeatedly stressful situations, you somehow think that you are the center of the orbit of confusion and that everything falls and rises around you. So when people make that snide remark, you think because you weren't saying the right thing. Or because when you're not invited, it means that you didn't perform the well. And maybe you have, but there was maybe other things. Maybe there was someone who was performing better, or maybe there was limited slots, but all those other ideas get pushed out. So the narrative makes you feel like a victim.
Yeah. I think it's a lot easier to make ourselves victims than it is to actually deal with our own behavior and the control we actually have in those situations, in a lot of them.
Oh, control is a huge thing. For a lot of people, they confuse compassion with control. A lot of trauma survivors, they become therapists. Oh my gosh, Tawny, I had some really bad therapists, really bad. They think that I had to literally rely on them to the point where, can you help me wipe my ass type of energy. I'm serious. Because they felt like they didn't want to deal with their issues because it was so much easier to deal with other people's issues.
Yeah. I've really struggled with therapy in the past. I've mentioned on here before that I sought out a therapist when I started struggling with infertility and it was getting to be too much. And I sought out a infertility specialist therapist. And I went a few times, paid a lot of money for it. And then I was just like, because I'm an open book and I will talk to people about my feelings. I cannot keep my feelings locked inside. It will eat me alive. I am not that person. I'm very honest and open about it. So I can talk to my mom and I can talk to my sisters and my friends about my emotions and things like that. And then so that's what I felt like I was paying this woman to do, was to basically be like my sister, to listen to me. And she didn't give me really any tools. At one point, she told me I should start journaling. And I was like, okay, but I've never done that. So I don't even know where to start. She hands me a pamphlet that tells me how to journal. I'm like, I'm not going to read this. I'm going to go home and it's going to go in a drawer of the trash. Teach me what I need to be doing. And so I ended up seeking out other methods of healing and have found things that have worked for me now that are tools that I can actually do and not just have somebody listen to me and then be like, your feelings are justified. Bye, have a good day.
You just hit it right there. So let's unpack that because that's like a gold mine for people to like really understand. You came with a pain, really a grief. I and my husband want to bring life into this world. I know that what I'm doing is not weird or strange. It's a normal, healthy thing to do, but it's not happening in the way and the sequence and what I observed and what I was told I should be doing. Yeah. Help me work through this. And so you met someone who was supposed to be trained in it. But what really was happening was that she was projecting her shame onto you indirectly.
Okay.
So instead of dealing with her own shame and how she didn't work through those initial things, because when you're talking with someone who's reminding you of the pain you went through, you could be able to lean in it and work through the grief simultaneously, or you can block. And you block it with information. And so like it happens all the time. So here's a journal. I don't have the psychology degree. Yeah. What am I supposed to do with this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So which creates so much confusion and more harm, which makes you distrust the industry, distrust the whole purpose of healing, distrust the whole process of grieving. And there's a lot of people in that space who don't even know how to work through their own grief as they work with clients.
So this is what we were talking about before we hit record, is just all the people in the industry and all the people that are not trained psychologists that are trying to become life coaches and healing coaches, and they have all these programs to offer. So how do we know who to trust and who to go to? And do you have any tips for that?
Yeah. Yeah, I got a lot. And I'm also going to give you a link to an article that I've written about that so people can refer more to it. So it's not just me just doing a one-off, so you can continue the journey. So the first and foremost thing is I just have to be honest with you guys who are listening and say that we could sit here and talk about all like the warning signs and where to go and what to look out for. But if you're not really honest about why you're seeking help and healing, this is a moot point.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So it starts with you.
It starts with you. So if there's a part of you who's not ready, who's stuck in the victim mindset, who is wanting to outsource their own emotional regulation, who lacks either the time or the emotional bandwidth to even deal with the stress that comes from healing. Because here's the thing, healing, I remember this way. I was talking with a client a few years back about, and she was like, I started therapy, right? And I was thinking, man, like, that must be rough. And then she looked at me perplexed. She was like, what do you mean it's not rough? I said, because we're dealing with your expectations, your hopes, your dreams, where it clashed with reality, your discomfort with processing all of that. And she's like, no, we're having a great time. And I'm like, you're not in therapy, boo-boo. You're just having girl chat and paying a $40 copay.
Yes.
You're not.
Yes.
You're not. If you feel warm and fuzzy each and every single time, you're not in therapy.
Yeah.
And I think, go ahead.
You need to go into it with the mindset of wanting to fix whatever is happening inside of you, and not, that's what I mean. And I went into it with that at that point in my time. Like, I was ready to get the tools to fix myself and my emotions. And then I wasn't getting it. And I think a lot of people go and they're like, okay, I'll just go tell my story and then it'll be better.
Oh, it's called Lachian mirror technique. And so let me explain what that is. So there's lots of spins in psychology, okay? But the old school thing, the lazy thing that everyone does, and the therapists, man, I'm telling their dirty little secrets, is that have you ever gone to a therapist and then you just sit there and you're just unloading and talking and they don't say anything, right? They say nothing. And then you just sit there and then you're like, wait a minute, I feel good momentarily, but what's happening? And so what's the theory behind it? It came from the psychologist Lachian, is that you will be able, through saying it out loud, to recognize the psychosis, the mismatch in priorities when you voice it out loud. You will be able to hear it in your own words. And be able to make those conclusions logically through the repetition of you explaining your distress.
Okay. But that doesn't always happen. Some people can, but not everybody is going to recognize that, because that's presumably why they're seeking out help anyways, because they don't know how to do that.
Yeah, you've got it.
Yeah.
You've got it right there. And then a lot of people don't like to be confronted with their distress because they don't know how to deal with it afterwards. So with the lazy attempt of the therapist saying, I'm providing the space for them where they would otherwise never have the space to vocalize it. And hopefully they'll be able to recognize their desires, their reality, and work through the initial discomfort. But you can spin your wheels for decades in that method.
Yeah.
Ask Jennifer Aniston. She knows all about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I shouldn't be drawing names and making insinuations, but you see it all over the place.
Yeah.
When the therapists, like these celebrities, have these interviews and they talk about the therapist, and I'm like, oh great. And I'm like, listen to what their therapist is like. No, your therapist was terrible, actually, boo boo. We just talked about number one is actually having the willingness and the ability and the time, the space, obviously the money to want to do that. You came in wanting to do that, so that was step one. Perfect. This is a problem that I wish I knew, that a lot of people don't realize, is that We have this implicit trust in the people who have titles behind their name, like
Mhm.
this alphabet soup, L license clinical social question,
I don't know
FAMBDC,
what
L.
half of them mean.
And so we think, right, through that implicit trust, that's enough. Okay, but think about it this way. Let's say for whatever you look gorgeous, Tawny. You look
Oh,
gorgeous. But let's say you wanted to get a facelift, right?
sure.
Would you ever just go and just hop on the operating room and just get your face peeled apart before talking to them?
Oh,
That's what's happening. You're excavating yourself through a therapist. So why would you ever embark on a long-term relationship with someone who's literally going into your deep unconscious memories, repressed ideas, thoughts, grief, without being able to have that initial consult?
yeah. Yeah. How many do therapists not offer consultations? Is that not a common thing?
Because people don't question their authority.
Oh,
It is upon you as the patient, as the client, whatever capacity, to question your provider.
I think that's the same for the medical world too. This is a totally different direction. I think there's a lot of people talking now about trying to be an advocate for yourself in the medical world as well. So always question, ask questions, advocate for yourself. I think it's so important. So with your therapist as well.
Or your life coach or whoever, it doesn't matter. And so it's so bizarre to me, and I see this all over the plays, Tawny, where they'll have free 1 day mastermind or this up level thing, and they get you in this high press thing, and if you pay now, it's normally like $5,000, but we'll knock 25% off, even 50% off, and then they have all these crying emotional like testimonials, and then you get, because your emotions are heightened and you feeling vulnerable and you
Yeah.
share this stuff, like you get sucked into that. We're not realizing you're in a sales funnel. You
Mhm.
weren't in a consultation about your health, your emotional health and well-being.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's so much. I think the with online education becoming so huge post COVID, you see all of that stuff all over the place. And I don't like the pressure of the pay me 5,000. Actually, right now it's $3,000. And I'm actually experiencing that right now with, I'm a hairdresser and with some educators in that world too. I've got people reaching out to me on Instagram all the time that are like, pay for my program, and on this call that we're talking about it you can have $1,500 off of the entire program. I'm like, that doesn't change anything. And then when you're talking about people's mental health too and healing, I get people need to make money and people should be paid for their time. There are so many mongers out there trying to just take your money, so many.
I know. And so you, even in your industry, even in hairdressing,
Mhm.
like cosmetology, like there's sharks in the water.
Yeah.
That doesn't, it just because we're talking about health and well-being and overall appearance doesn't mean there's sharks in the water.
Right.
And I think that's really what shocks people.
Yeah.
Because like, why would somebody who says that they're about clarity and healing and honesty and wellness be predatory and people in their worst thing, like their worst ways? And it's because they have unsafe personality traits that never got resolved despite their technical knowledge.
Yeah. So you're recommending doing you think a consultation first. And then I feel like though with a therapist, you don't always know. And I feel like it takes several sessions to really know if it's a good fit. Do you agree or no?
I think it depends. I
Okay.
think it depends because I think, let me back up and say another way. All right. If a therapist is rooted and grounded in empathy, compassion, understanding, they will be able to project energetically what you need to know unconsciously you feel safe. You
Hmm.
will know when you're nowhere. Yes, this is home.
Hmm.
I can come as I am. You feel that peace.
Yeah.
Because I remember even before we started hitting record, we were talking about things. You're like, how did you know? Because this industry's shaky. Look, like there's people who don't do that inner work.
Yeah.
And then they just masquerade as salesmen with the label of
Mm.
healing coach or like therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
The work I do is sacred. It is not for the faint at heart. And if I could have done something totally different, Tawny, I would have. Because you're dealing with so much soul level issues
Yeah.
that you have to continuously work to unearth your own issues to be able to be present with another person.
Yeah.
So to take that lightly and to
Mm.
masquerade into a sales funnel so you can meet quotas and projections, like that is insane to me.
Yeah. It's not about actually helping people. It's about making money.
So going back to your question, like, do you really need a consultation? You bet your bottom dollars you do. If you have complex post-traumatic stress disorder, you absolutely do. And if they say we don't do consultations, the real question is, why would you be around someone who doesn't want to do that if they really care about working with you?
Yeah. Because you would think they would want to be a good fit for you too. It could be a bad fit on either side.
Yeah, so that makes no sense. And let's say, okay, you're doing a group coaching thing and you have scaling issues and you can't really attend to every single person. Okay, I get those situations. That's why you should have an ample of literature, visual, verbal, like that explains your methodology, your thought process, why you believe the things that you do. I have made it very clear on my website that everything that I do is rooted and grounded in transactional analysis psychology. Here's why.
Yeah.
And I explain it. It's not my fault if you don't want to read it,
Yeah.
but it's there.
It's
right?
there. Yeah. Yeah.
And a good therapist or healer or coach or whatever should have that level of transparency. It shouldn't be, I help you with it, and they're smiling and testimonials and click to add card. Like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
Or it shouldn't, in my opinion. It
Yeah.
shouldn't work that way.
Yeah. Let's back up a little bit and talk about, you mentioned that you were in a mental hospital and came up with the different names. We got a little bit sidetracked there, but
sorry
that's
about yes,
totally
okay,
fine because
okay.
we wanted to talk about that. So I think that, everybody listening, I hope that was helpful. So go ahead and tell me, if you don't mind, how you ended up in that position. And then you said later on you got through your traumas and then you had stuff that knocked you back. So I'd like to know about that too.
Yeah, I mean, how I got there was because I was in a situation in my childhood of origin where my mother verbally, physically, sexually abused me from as long as I can remember until I was 11 years old, and Child Protective Services took me away.
Oh man. Now you said you were in the foster care system. Was that your biological mother or was that foster?
It was a foster. My biological mother did those horrific things to me.
Oh
I
my
was
God.
in foster care because I told a
Okay.
teacher about what happened.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So then you end up in a mental hospital were you 11 when that happened or was that just when they
12,
took
12, 12,
12?
12. Mhm.
And how long were you in there for?
Not that long, maybe
Oh, okay.
4 or 5 months, whatever. Then I got discharged to live back with my mother.
Oh,
And then
really?
my mother tried to kill me the next
Oh
year.
my gosh.
And then I'm finally living with my father. I know, right? This stuff is like as the world twirls. But I'm sitting here explaining that this is why I'm saying complex post-traumatic
Yeah.
stress disorder is different from just post-traumatic stress disorder.
Sure.
When you're getting trauma on trauma, and there's a lot of stuff that happened from 0 to 11, 12, that's like that would take an episode within itself. So I want to let you know that I'm around people who have a tenuous grip of reality. I'm around people who are minimizing my own psychological, spiritual, and physical discomfort. I'm around people who are mismanaging money. I have many acute memories of my life, Tawny, of taking baths by candlelight because there was no electricity.
Oh man.
I had many memories of sneaking food to my older brothers because my mother thought it was good punishment to starve them.
Oh my God.
So I have all of those memories, and I can tell you that not because from a like, look, I know trauma. Let me tell you how. Like that's not the energy. It's just the fact that everybody faces trauma differently, and it comes in so many different flavors. And I want everyone who's listening to say that my trauma doesn't trump your trauma. That's not the energy that I'm trying to put out there.
No. And my whole point in starting this podcast is also because of social media and the way that we live in this world, everybody tries to make their lives look perfect, and nobody's life is perfect. And everyone has their shit, whether it's trauma, whether it's ever. No one's life is perfect. And so that's why I think it's so important to share your story and put it out there, because when I started going public with my story, the amount of people that came out of the woodworks that were like, me too, I've dealt with that too. Like, I had no idea. I was like, what? Really? And then we can lean on each other and we can help each other and support each other. And so it's super, just to say that, like you said, nobody's trauma is the same. Everybody has a different journey in this life. And yeah, so I just want to share that everyone's struggling with something. So that
Yeah.
person on Facebook is not, they got something they're hiding. They're just not wanting to talk about it.
For me, I'll just have to say that sidebar is that the people who have appeared that they have the most together have they're literally one step away from falling apart because it takes a lot of energy to project perfection.
Yeah, I was talking to my mom about this not too long ago, and she did make a comment about, well, I just don't think Facebook is the right place to put those things. And I'm like, I get that. I get that, maybe you don't want to broadcast your struggles on there or something. But I do think there's a lot of just inauthenticity in general of people on there that are like, oh, look, it's so perfect. Everything's so perfect and wonderful, versus I'm just not sharing the bad stuff.
Mm. It makes it even worse for young women because it literally rewires the brain to believe that if you're not picture perfect, then there's something terribly wrong with you, forgetting the fact that there's filters and edits and carefully
Yeah.
curated. And I'll never forget that I was in this dermatologist's office and I was talking to a nurse. It was a dermatological nurse, and she was telling me about some procedure she was doing. And she looked already in a great shape. And she said, yeah, I had liposuction done and I had this other work done. And she was telling me about everyone on Instagram looks so pretty. And she looked gorgeous and felt like she felt insecure. It was the saddest thing, Tawny, I've ever saw. She would look like into her mid to late 20s. Saddest thing. And imagine she carries that wound to her daughter.
Yeah, because that's usually how that works. You just unintentionally pass that on.
Yeah, but that's a sidebar
Yeah.
conversation. I apologize. But
No
getting back
worries.
to me, right? Because you
Yes,
wanted to know
yes.
all my
I
junk,
want to know
right?
about you. Yes.
To make a long story short, my mother trained me to be a great little whore, and then on top of the mistreatment that I received from my dad's living girlfriend at the time, I lived up to that. So even if I jockling from situational ships, would never call a relationship, to being raped by a counselor, having one disgusting relation to another, I never really was able to feel normal in my skin, and I related to people as sexual objects
Ah,
and didn't even, or I thought I was being sexualized, and everything coming from that lens. They want to sleep with them, or how can I get them to want to seduce me?
yeah.
I wish I could sit here and say that I found a great therapist and they taught me about how to love myself. We all sat down and cried through How the Body Keeps Score by Bessel van de Kamp. Like we went through Oprah Book Club recommendations, and somehow I believed in myself. And I met my husband, and we all galloped until happily ever after. That's not what happened. What happened was I saw a whole bunch of more therapists. I got kicked out of one therapist,
Oh
joined
God.
Sexaholics Anonymous, which is a spinoff to AA.
Mhm.
Almost got fired. Decided to quit. Decided to be an online business coach, failed at that, decided I actually needed to deal with my stuff at age 38, despite being a mother and despite being married for over 10 years. And then finally started actually reading all the book recommendations and started highlighting and owning my own crap, that I finally got to the point where I'm talking to you about this.
Yeah. We all have a role to play in our crap too. And you can choose to blame it. And this is like you said, make yourself a victim. It's all of those other people, all of those other things for why I am struggling today. Or you can choose to say, okay, how am I going to fix it? Because the only person you have control over is yourself.
Absolutely right.
So what are you doing now?
What am I doing? Well, beyond talking with you, obviously. So my title is a healing leadership coach, which my coach told me which was a better branding than saying a life coach for executives and business owners. So what I realized, Tawny, in the whole journey of my own healing was that you can't be a good business owner while not having your own issues resolved. And I'll be honest with you. what I wanted to do as a business coaching was basically recreating and re-traumatizing myself through trying to control other people's way of running their business.
Oh, wow. That's big.
So I needed to get out of that space.
Yeah.
But what I'm really great at doing is understanding how your behaviors and actions are basically a manifestation of how you have dealt with past experiences and how you want to be able to control your life today.
That's really interesting. Can you
Yeah.
talk more about that?
So in the 1950s, this is not original, okay? I don't want everyone thinking like Denise just came up with this whole proprietary blend of cycle healing. That's not what it is, okay? So in the 1950s, a very smart man named Dr. Eric Berne, he loved Freudism, the id, the super id, the child, but he also liked the transactional, like how we interact with people in certain words from Carl Jung. And he merged it together into this weird blend called transactional analysis psychology. And basically, what it is explaining why we do things that seem totally batshit crazy on the surface, but they have a logical connection.
Okay.
And so what I do is based and rooted on that idea of saying, you're not crazy, you weren't stupid, you just learned a lot of things that were helpful in this situation, in this stressful situation, but it's ruining your life as an adult. Here's why.
Okay.
And so basically, we're not trying to cut away everything you've done, but we're trying to help you work through the grief, understand the connection, and look for a path forward that makes sense for you in your life.
Yeah.
My message is towards business owners and leaders primarily because they have a lot more to lose.
Oh, okay. How did you end up going that path?
Yes. I woke up and I said some chimes. No, but I because I saw how it was ruining my businesses and I didn't know why.
Okay. Do you have some examples for people listening of how you've, like some of the people you've worked with? Are you able to share some of that?
I mean, I have to switch out some of the details, but I'm thinking about one particular client in my mind where she is a doctor and she hired a whole bunch of predatory people underneath her. And she basically created as some type of girldom situation where one stole from her money and time. Another one was disrespectful to her. They were not always coming to her to interrupt her during certain appointments because they thought they couldn't figure it out on their own. And basically, she wanted to become Big Mama indirectly through her practice
Okay.
because she didn't feel safe as a child herself. And she just wanted to feel control and shepherding over other people. But that doesn't work with your employees.
No. No. Do you see that a lot of people create toxic work environments? Because is that where toxic work environments come from? Is the people that are haven't dealt with their own shit?
Yeah, so for those who are listening to audio only, my eyes are bulging open and I'm nodding really fast.
Okay, I just learned something. It makes total sense. I don't know why I never thought about it before, but that's
I
interesting.
mean, think about, okay, let's just talk about a generic example, but totally real. Everybody heard about Adam Newman and the WeWork and how, wow, that was insane, how he behaved, right? But if you knew how he was raised, how he didn't feel worthy and validated as a child, how he always was seeking affirmation, WeWork totally makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. That's so interesting because I think there's unfortunately a lot of toxic work environments out there. And, and I've always believed that it came from the leader, but I never really put together that it's the leader who's not dealing with their past shit, trauma, life, whatever, childhood, whatever that may be.
So I occupy that space. And it makes me feel good, first and
Yeah.
foremost, because I'm in my zone. But most of all, I see the ripple effects for how a leader helps other people in their industry and the people around them. It's a ripple effect.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think just in general, if your personal life is not good, let's just say, I guess, I don't know, that's the term I'm trying to go for, but that's what I'm going to say. Then it spills over into your business life. And as much as people try to say, leave it at the door or whatever, I know they don't bring it into the workplace. They absolutely do. I worked with a girl years ago in a salon who was having an affair, and the guy was coming to the salon to have smoke breaks with her and stuff like that. So we all knew about it. And then her clientele started to decline severely, and because she had shit she wasn't trying to fix and deal with. So I've seen it in a lot of different spaces. And she wasn't necessarily the owner of the salon, she was just an employee, but that's just a small example. So you can I'm thinking of those bigger examples of people who are in higher power positions in big companies and stuff, how that just trickles down so
Yeah.
far.
Yeah, think about the salon owner in that situation who's watching, yet it's totally immoral but legal behavior of her subordinate, right? And because she hasn't dealt with her own shame issues, she doesn't feel equipped to deal with that. And everyone's picking up the shame of the situation unconsciously.
Yeah. So when you work with these people, do you get to see or do they tell you about the trickle down effect when they do start working on their shit and things start to get better? Like you're affecting more lives down the road than just that one person's.
It depends on where they are
Mm.
emotionally. And some people are more honest about it than others. And Carl Jung talked about shadow self, meaning that there's a part of us that does things to keep us from experiencing guilt and embarrassment, all this other stuff. So a lot of us pick up smoke screens and downplay it or deflect it or dismiss it or say, oh no, it wasn't that big a deal. It was blah, blah, externalize it. And so that's a lot of defensive armor to break through. Some people are a little bit more open and receptive to breaking it down than others. But when I work with clients
Yeah.
in the initial session, is we have a process where we do a full eval from birth to present day. And I'm not judging. I'm just listening
No.
and I'm like, tell me your life, tell me certain things. And it helps me understand certain patterns, certain linkages, certain like common threads.
Yeah.
And then my work is to basically talk about those threads. Now, depending on how comfortable they are, I can be able to pull out more than others. But
Yeah.
I only move as fast as they're willing to work on their own selves.
Yeah. Which has to be a little bit of a frustrating thing from your perspective sometimes, I would think. Maybe because that these people can be better, they can be healed, they can be happier, and you're trying to help them. I would struggle with that in your position to be like, but I know how you could be so much happier.
Yeah, and that's why I need to continue doing my own work with my own coach to talk about how I can be able to be present and create space without immensely like immersing myself in their own drama.
Yeah.
My job is to show up and be present and give you tools. What you do with that's your business.
Yeah. Yeah. So I am looking at some of your notes. You mentioned on here leading without a mask. What does that mean?
Oh boy. So here's the thing. In order for us to function in like everyday normal society, we can't really exactly be who we want to be because let's be honest with each other. We expect other people to make us feel good and happy so that we can play well with them. But what if the only version you feel acceptable is the one that's perfectionistic, that never complains, always has a bright idea, always shows up, never complains? That works great when there's a crisis or there's some type of instability. But that's a horrible way to lead long term for yourself and everybody else because it brings up this false persona that doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about leading without a mask, we're saying allowing people to show your humanity in appropriate ways. Like, for example, my back hurts. Now, It hurts now. Some stupid push-ups things I was doing. Do I need to sit here and tell you every single ache that I have in the like during our conversation? How is that even pertinent right now?
Yeah.
Maybe I should talk with somebody else who actually understands back pain management.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to validate it. I'm not going to dismiss it. I'm acknowledging it, but I understand the context. When we're leading, we're needing to be able to have appropriate context as why we're doing certain things and how we explain our discomfort with others.
I think in general, like you said, everybody puts a mask on to some degree. And I've had to do it many times in my job because my job is to go to the salon and make people feel good. And if I'm not feeling good, I have to put that mask on sometimes, unless I want to talk to them about it. There are a few clients I would go into that with, but and then that gets exhausting too, to be the one wearing the mask all the time because you're just hiding yourself.
Here's the thing, right? Because let's just zoom into your role, right? I'm coming to look beautiful and sexy. I want to be Beyonce, Tawny, help me. I want to be sexy. I don't want to hear about your sex problems and the fact that you didn't have a good night's sleep or you wanted tacos and you got an enchilada. I don't want to hear any of that. I want you to show me and perform your magic, right? When someone is rendering a service, I don't need any of that mess because I paid for a service. I didn't pay to give you free therapy.
Yeah.
And if a client comes and says, Tony, tell me everybody what's going on with your life. Tell me about your relationship. That's weird. That's super weird and inappropriate. And it's because the client is seeking to feel a sense of more like superiority over you. And that's a flag that needs to be checked too. Just because someone says bleed into me doesn't mean that you need to allow it to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, that was really good. Oh, man. So, being somebody that's worked around a lot of women over many years, I'm just curious, this is for my own curiosity's sake. What about the gossiping and talking behind people's backs and stuff like that? Because that is very common when you have a bunch of women together. I'm not saying men don't do it, but I just think it's a lot more. My experience is all women. So, what do you have to say about that for maybe towards people leading in those situations?
So when I think about someone who gossips, what I'm basically hearing is someone say to me, I don't feel comfortable in my own reality, so I'm going to play an event of what I believe other people are facing and then ad lib and add something else.
Yeah.
And so one of the things well, let me ask you a question first. Are we talking about like how we respond to gossiping or why gossiping happens? I just want to make sure I have
How to respond to it, I think, because I think I'm thinking of people who are in leadership positions that are maybe dealing with other people doing that, and then how you, as a leader, handle that.
Yeah. Let's come up with a fictional name. Okay, let's come up with a fictional name. We'll talk about Tammy. Tammy's boinking the office manager.
Okay.
We see her head bobbing and forth in certain positions, and we know that she's not just nodding her head, yes.
Yeah.
Because she's on her knees. What's happening? What's going on with Tam? And I see this, right? And instead of A, minding my own damn business, B, actually making sure that Tammy's not having a seizure.
Making sure Tammy's okay.
What do I do with that information? And I see you walking around from the wash basin to the towel rack. Girl, hey, Tammy's bobbing her head. And I see legs on the floor. What's happening? And then so I'll be the new you. I'll be like, and you're like, wow. It seems that Tammy has a lot going on, clearly. I want to know, how is knowing about Tammy's behavior helping us right now? Because they don't really want to solve the problem.
No,
they just want to spread information. They just want to talk about how is it helping me? And that might throw someone in the back because wait a minute, how is it helping me? I just want to share your gossip. Okay, how is this helping our relationship to be more blunt? Because I don't feel safe talking with you because you may be talking about me later.
Yes, yes.
Call the elephant in the room.
It's a hard thing to do sometimes, especially if you're like the new person at work too.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Tawny, if you feel safe in yourself, you can feel safe with other people.
That's really good. Yeah. So again, we're full circle back to work on yourself. Yeah. Oh man. Thank you for addressing that. What about, can we talk a little bit about, since you had a sobriety journey, for anybody who's listening who is maybe struggling with that, do you have any advice, words of wisdom?
Ooh,
I know we're just touching the icing on the cake,
well,
but
that's a beast within itself because for those who aren't aware of my background, I'm a recovering alcoholic, sex addict. I've been sober for almost 10 years of alcohol. I've been sober off and on from the sex addiction for about 15 years. And so when I'm talking about sobriety and desiring to be sober, it comes from a different angles because you could be sober physically from consuming, but your mind could be spinning wheels thinking about getting high. So sobriety really all depends on like where you are in your journey. But I would sit here and say addiction of any type is all about plugging in an unhealed emotional or spiritual need.
Mhm.
It's not the desire to drink. It's the desire to feel calm. It's not the desire to get high. It's the desire to escape because what you feel feels overwhelming.
Yeah. So we got,
So yeah, so trying to like give you a soundbite is impossible because I don't
yeah.
know where they're in their journey yet, to be
Mhm.
honest with you. But I
Mhm.
always know that when we're trying to look out, it's because we're trying to escape from what's going on within.
Yeah. Yeah. I've never struggled with that type of addiction myself, but I have a lot of family members that have, and I've watched it happen. And I mean, again, it boils down to you got to do the work. You got to go deep into yourself and acknowledge. And that's hard to do because that's why you're doing the things that you're doing, is so you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Mm. Addiction is this scary. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible disease and it ruins so many people's lives.
But look, but here's the thing, right? Everybody talks about the big stuff, alcohol, drugs. Now we got crypto, gambling, whatever. But
Mhm.
there's a thing called lifestyle pornography. And let me explain what I mean by lifestyle
Yes.
pornography. It's that swipe up thing on Instagram where you do this scroll that will never end, and you're seeing women with carefully white backgrounds, hopefully polished outfits, and you're just constantly looking about how to put your how to make your hair look done, how to have the perfect kids, how to have the perfect fill in the blank. And you can get addicted to that.
Yeah.
And we think, oh, I'm not snorting, but you're constantly buying crap you don't need.
Yeah. I'm guilty of that.
You're
Yeah.
trying to make yourself a mini me of some designer. You're trying to
Mhm.
be the next Joanna Gaines. You're trying to do the Meghan Markle thing. That's a form of addiction, too. You're going through Southern living, real simple, all that stuff, trying to curate your life. I see it all the time. I saw this at church all day. I laughed my ass off. I love it when I see the moms and dressing up everybody, including the babies, like little Ken dolls.
Yes.
They're all dressed alike. And even if it's not the same outfit, it's the same color scheme. That takes a lot
Yeah.
of energy to do that.
Yeah. Yep.
That
Yeah.
didn't come out of whim.
No, no, it's all out there on the internet and it's all in our faces all the time. We're looking at it all the time. Ugh. And then I feel bad for the younger generations too, who are growing up with that because that didn't become a thing until I was already in my 20s. And if you're starting from a real young age on that, I know some parents don't let their kids on that stuff at a real young age, but still too young to get inundated with that stuff. Let's see. We've got a few more minutes here. Let's see. There's a thing on here about identifying and managing emotional triggers. That seems like it might be helpful.
All right. So let's talk about what an emotional trigger is, right?
Yes.
Because I just want to be very clear about that. We as human beings have protections to help us to be able to aware of threats around us and sometimes in us, right? But one of our toolkits is our emotions. Our primary emotions is fear, anger, happiness, sadness. You might hear people say, oh, I've got disgusting. And I just like, that's not an emotion. I'm telling you the core four emotions. Based on how you interpret what's happening, you can label it as disgust. You can label it as elation. Those are the labels based on context and about your background and experience with that. Unfortunately, a lot of us, if we did not grow up being able to manage our emotional regulation, be able to deduce fact from fiction, we were popping off and yelling and screaming and fighting and sounding off over nonsense. Tawny, this is a true story. Got this text message, right, from this mom. Denise, I want to talk with you about your son. I've been hearing from my son, and evidently they said that I'm spying on you.
What?
You saw that look. Did you see the initial look on your face, right? When you said that, like I said that. Why would a grown woman spy on another grown woman?
Yeah, that's weird.
Does that even make any sense, right?
Because she's bored and has nothing else to do.
So you know that you're emotionally regulated to say, wait a minute, why would, I don't know her, Denise, but
yeah.
And you're taking the word of a child.
Yeah.
To say, like, so there's a lot of weirdness with that, right?
Yeah.
I talk with this woman and I don't even mention that because it just seems so bad shit crazy to me, but we talk about some other things, right? She sends me a message at 7:38 a.m. saying, I just want to say thanks for clearing things up, but I really want to talk with you about the spying thing.
But isn't that what you talked about before? I'm confused.
I am too. To be honest with you, like she mentioned it, but I didn't really get into it because it seems so like insane. But we talked about some other thing.
Okay.
Can you imagine spinning your wheels all night long thinking about some batshit crazy idea? But when you're emotionally dysregulated and you're not able to deduce fact from fiction, you're easily triggered on things that aren't based on reality.
Yeah.
That's why you need to be grounded in reality and to be able to deduce whether or not your brain is making tricks on you based on things you haven't healed from the past.
So we've come back again to healing ourselves. We got so much work to do. Like everybody does. We all have something that we got to.
Yeah, myself included. I ain't sitting here and say I got it all together.
Sure.
That's not what I'm trying to sit here.
No.
But a lot of people see. Here's the thing. Carl Jung said, if you don't make your unconscious conscious, you will keep repeating the same patterns and call it fate. It ain't fate unless you make that pattern interruption.
It's making me think of people who get divorced and then marry someone who is similar to their ex and then get divorced again. Because I'm always fascinated by the divorce statistics. It's like 50% of first marriages end in divorce. And then it's like 75% of second marriages end in divorce. And then it's like 90% of, and I don't quote me on all of these statistics, but it's something like that, of third marriages end. And I feel like it's got to be like that because people are not learning their lessons for the type of people they're going after. And they're just ending up, they've got to be having the same issues. Or they haven't worked on themselves, and therefore their relationships are the same thing over and over.
So I'll never forget when Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck got married in that like spur of the moment Las Vegas wedding. And I'll never forget the face of pure elation of Jennifer Lopez smiling and like the deadpan, like deer in headlights, like face of Ben Affleck. And I was like, this ain't gonna last. This ain't gonna last. Like she is in a full on psychotic episode. And let me explain when I say psychotic, because I don't want people like, not everything's psychotic. Like this is not what I'm talking about. When I say from a psychotic, I'm talking from the clinical aspect of she is so emotionally elated. She's not reading the room of what's going on around her. It's like, because she's so caught up in what the feelings that is making her feel, she's totally bypassing what her beloved is doing in this moment. So is it a shocker less than 2 years later they hit the fan? It's not a shocker. I'm like, I'm not trying to make this like a rag on her. That's not the issue of what I'm trying to say. It's like, but for so many of us, we bypass the character flaws because of the payout of feeling emotionally secure with ourselves without doing the hard work. Then we externalize and blame the other person.
You have so many good little sound bites. I love it. So many things making me think, making me just all the things. Do you have anything else you wanted to talk about in this conversation?
I don't know. I'm going to leave a whole bunch of article links.
Yeah. Send them all to
So
me.
the things I want to talk about, I want to leave the links for romantic codependency. I just talked about. I want to talk about the bad life coach. I'm going to talk about another article about signs the person around you is not stable. Because a lot of we like to believe that if we could just fix them or do the right thing. No.
Yeah.
There's something wrong. Here's why.
Yeah. 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 Do you have any parting words for my listeners after all the great little nuggets you've already given us?
Well, but it's not you. But it is you.
Not you, but is you.
It is you.
I feel like every situation we talked about just came back to fix yourself, and then things around you are going to get better because then you'll be healed and emotionally regulated. And yeah, I also want to acknowledge that trauma keeps happening. Like life keeps happening, shit keeps happening. So you're not just one day magically healed. It's constant work, right?
Absolutely. And it always comes in iterations, and we always attract the hurt that needs to be healed. And we always search for the things that never felt right within us. So let's get introspective. Let's cry some big old ugly tears. Let's remove our defenses and see whether or not we may be to blame for the drama.
Denise, this has been a lovely conversation and I have very much enjoyed it. I hope everybody enjoyed listening. Thank you so much for taking your time to come on here and share all the things, all your knowledge and your personal story and all that stuff. You're just one big light in this world. I appreciate you.
Thank you. Then thank you so much for everyone who's hang tight with us for this conversation. I know that's a little spicy at times, but we're here. We're doing the thing, and that's awesome.
We got to keep it spicy and fun or nobody will listen. All right, Denise, thank you so much. And everybody, thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next episode.